Welcome to Blooming Acres. It's a cold winter day, certainly not a day you want to spend outside gardening. It's a great day for snuggling with your creatures and doing inside projects. However, if it happens to be a snow day or a weekend day where the kids are stuck inside, it can drive everybody a little crazy. So here's a project you can work on with your kids or for your kids, either way. That'll be a lot of fun and will actually produce something that I think everyone will enjoy. I made a whole bunch of these creatures when I was a teenager for my many nieces and nephews, and someone actually reminded me of how much they enjoyed them when they were a child very recently. So here we go. Mr. Octopus. He's made out of yarn, which is a great way for using leftover yarn where you've always got, one skein or a skein and a half of something where you just don't have enough to finish. They're very simple. All they're made of is yarn and a styrofoam ball. That's pretty much all you need. And if you want to, you can buy yourself a package of eyes at any kind of a craft store and you can glue them on, or if you don't even want to do that, buttons make really good eyes. So Holly's going to leave us while I do this work, and I will show you how to do this. It's really, the whole project takes about an hour, so it's not something that goes on indefinitely, and if you're doing it with kids, they can finish it up right away. So one of the very first things you need is a box. This is a great box. It's a perfect size box because as you wrap the yarn around it, it's an excellent length. Remember that it's going to get shorter because the braiding takes up some space. But one of the things I really like about this box is this end. This opening makes it really easy to cut. So let me just show you how to do this. Okay? It's really very simple. And you just wrap it around. My children thought I was making yarn balls, which is another thing you can do, but they're not as much fun. And I'm going to do this a whole bunch of times and then cut it. So I'll show you the whole pile in just a minute, okay? All right, well, this should just about do it. You want a nice fat bunch of yarn so that the styrofoam ball is completely covered when you wrap it around there. As I said, this particular box is excellent. Not only is it the right size, but it makes the opening there makes really easy to cut it. So I think I have almost enough. That should do. I'll just cut it right across there. And then lay this down with this. Oh, this one's still attached. Okay, now here's where it starts to get tricky. You want to make sure all the yarn is nice and straight. That's important. Sometimes when it's in a ball, it's a little bit curly, especially if you're working with a small ball, but the yarn will straighten out. Try to get at least one end pretty even. And now you want to cut yourself one extra piece that's a little bit longer. Okay, now you fold it in half. You want to get it pretty, as close to being perfect. Oh, this is a short one. As close to in the middle as you can. Okay, then you take your extra long piece of yarn and you put that in the middle, and you want to get it even so that the two ends are pretty much the same length. And the reason you want them long is they're going to hang down. You don't want any cut ends. And this way it's nice and long and it'll dangle down with the rest and get caught in with the braids of the braided legs. All right, that looks good. Now, you just tie this. And you make it pretty tight, as tight as you can without running the risk of breaking it. Tie it in a knot. There you go. And let the ends dangle down and they just become part of the rest of the yarn. But you then flip it over so that you never see the knot. So that's on the inside. Okay, then you get your very nice, round, easy to use, inexpensive styrofoam ball, and you put it under there. And if you have enough yarn, it covers the styrofoam ball very easily. And again, around the head, you want to make sure that the yarns are as straight as possible, especially where they come together and form sort of a seam. You want to make sure that that's nice and straight so that it's not likely to open up. Okay, we almost have octopus head and legs separate here. Okay, now you need another extra long piece of yarn, because once again you're going to tie it and you want the excess to become part of the hanging down yarns as opposed to having short ends. Short ends always stick out and then you're stuck with them. So you put this, you make it tight, pull it down as uniform and as straight as you can. Remember, this is not the kind of project where perfection is key. You just want to get it as uniform as you can. And you know, again, if you're working with kids, you can be a little more flexible. So once again, you get the strings as even as you can, and then you tie it around like that. And you pull it tight. And you pull, and this is the opportunity where you can get to make it nice and tight. Okay, you get as tight as you can, again being careful not to snap the yarn. Now, okay, now what I'm going to suggest is you then, to make sure it doesn't snap down the road, is wrap it around 3 or 4 times and then tie it once more. That way the pressure is distributed over several strings, and if it should ever pop, you've got a little bit of protection there. Okay, starting to look like an octopus, right? All right, at this point, again, you want to try to keep all the yarns as straight as possible. Now, octopuses, or is it octopi, have 8 legs, and what you do is you start out by dividing it in half, and you want to get as even as possible. And it's kind of hard to tell. You got to do it a little bit by eye and a little bit by feel, because they do squish. So, and then that's half, and then you do it in quarters. If you're using a really fat yarn, sometimes it even pays to count. This is very thin yarn, so it's not as necessary, but one really fat yarn could make a difference. Okay. Now that looks pretty good. Now once again, this is 4. You would divide again into quarters, or into eighths, and that would make the 8th leg. And then this one you would divide into thirds. And that's how you would braid them. And you would take these 3, and you want to get them again as uniform as possible, is how you make the braids. Now it's important that you don't braid too tight, because if you braid too tight, it becomes kind of lumpy and doesn't hang down nicely. So a nice loose braid, and then you will do this with each of the 8 sections. Goes very quickly. This is not a complicated project, but it is kind of fun. All right, so I will show you. That's this one. We'll put this one aside. I'll finish him up later. And this is what it looks like when you have most of the braids done. This is the last quarter section. And again, I'm going to divide this into half, and then I will braid these, and I'll show you what it looks like when he's all done. Okay, this is the end of the braid, and once again I've cut a string to tie it off with. We're going to pull as tight as we can, and again it's long so that it'll get taken up in the end threads. And one more time, we're going to do exactly what we did with the neck and tying it off a couple times just to make sure. Then we're going to trim them all and make them all the same length. And we're going to put some decorative contrasting yarn. We're going to make a little red mouth and glue on some eyes, and we'll be all set. Now, we're going to trim all of these to make them nice and even. put on some contrasting, and we'll be done. All right, a couple of eyeballs, and I think Mr. Octopus is all done. Now you can see I put one little red bow here, and I can do the rest later, or you don't need them at all if you like it a solid color. And a little Elmer's glue. It takes about 2 hours for that to dry so that the eyes stay on good, and you have a new friend for you or your kids. Another way to keep the winter blahs away is to spend some time playing with your houseplants. Believe it or not, the days are already getting longer. We may not be able to tell, but I guarantee the plants can. And as they grow towards the bright, sunny window, they grow sort of lopsided. And one thing you can do in a split second, and it's very satisfying, is to turn the plants. Now take a look at this. You'll see an amazing difference. The plant looks healthy, but watch when I turn it. See, now all the leaves are facing me. It's a completely different direction. We were looking at all the backs of the leaves. Now we're looking at all the fronts of the leaves. There are other plants where it's even more dramatic. Some ferns just are spectacular on the window side, and you're looking at them and they look kind of scrawny on our side. In addition, some plants just need to be repotted, and we're going to do one of those too. But here is a perfect example of a plant that was clearly growing towards the window. All these long, beautiful purple branches on this side, and nothing but these ugly brown ones on this side. Now, this plant doesn't really need to be repotted, but it does need a serious pruning. And then what we can do is take the cuttings and start a new plant after it's rooted. Now, here's a perfect example. Look at how long and skinny and ugly that is. We don't need all that bare stem. So what we're going to do is cut it off here, take off a couple of the bottom leaves, and stick it in water. Now the botanical name of this plant is Setcriassa purpurea. Well, clearly the purpurea has to do with the purple coloration of the leaves. But it is an excellent houseplant in that it's very tolerant of lower light conditions, although not in the dark. But the more light you give it, it actually will get a deeper and deeper shade of purple. It can also be planted outside as a ground cover. So if you get an abundance of these rooted, you could plant it in the garden come spring. Now I want to trim all of these back, and the reason it's not really necessary to repot it is because it has a tremendous ability to regenerate. And once you've trimmed it, it will send up an abundance of new shoots right from the root system, and it will fill in, and by spring it will return to all its former glory. Then you can have the rooted cuttings to start as a new plant to keep for yourself, to use outside, or to give to a friend, which is really what gardening is all about. So we're going to turn this one into a beauty, and it'll be as magnificent as it can be come spring. Playing with the animals, doing crafts, fussing around with the houseplants, all good ways to keep winter at bay. But let us not forget the joy of comfort food. Definitely high on my list. Now, I'm one of those people that I would prefer to have one really, really luscious good thing and then skip all that luxuries for the rest of the month. So please bear with me. This is not low calorie, low fat, low anything, but definitely high on the comfort scale. This is one of my favorite things to eat, butterscotch pudding. And yes, it's just right out of the package, but we're going to spiff it up a bit and make it a little richer, a little more fattening, and a little bit more delicious. Certainly you want to, oh, I like to make 2 packages at a time. What's the point of making only one? So we'll put that in there. We will do one more. And here's the thing that makes it extra good. What you do is you cut back on the amount of milk that you put in, and instead of putting 2 cups of milk, you do 1 3/4. You also add 2 egg yolks to make it richer, and 2 tablespoons of sugar per package. That gives it a lot more flavor, makes it thicker, creamier, really actually very delicious. So here we go. We have 2 cups of milk here. We'll put that in. And we need another 1 1/2 cups. And definitely use whole milk. Anything less than whole milk ends up being somewhat disappointing. Okay, that's the milk. Now, we're going to do 4 tablespoons of sugar. Again, remember that was 2 tablespoons per package. 1, 2, that takes care of the first box. 3, 4. And I have to say, separating eggs is one of those things that my kids still really get a kick out of. It always makes me nervous, certainly. You don't want to screw it up or you have egg mess everywhere. There we go. That's 1 egg yolk. Here's the other. Oh, I think I got it. I think I popped that one. Okay, we can manage. It's okay, it's all in there. All right, that's good. Now, you want to beat that up. All right, we'll beat these little egg yolks. Now, one of the important things when you're making pudding is when you put it on the stove to use a medium flame, not too high, and you have to stir it constantly. Another thing with these nonstick pans, you have to be very careful to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom, but also make sure that you don't use any kind of a stirring utensil that's going to scratch the nonstick surface. It's one distinct disadvantage to those. However, cleanup is much easier. So we will put this on the stove. We will stir it constantly with something that will not scratch the bottom. And before you know it, we're going to have pudding. Alrighty, that came to a boil, and I'm continuing to stir just to make sure it doesn't stick. I have the excellent pudding scooping spoon because it's nice and narrow and will fit into those pudding cups perfectly. Now here's the thing. See, there's only 6 cups. Technically, on the boxes it says you can make 4 servings per box. Well, if you're in the mood for comfort food, 1 little serving of pudding just doesn't cut it. So we're going to take 2 boxes and make 6 servings, and then of course we won't eat for a week, but we won't talk about that right now. All right, and we'll take this and save that for later, and then we will serve this pudding. All right, so you put it in the cups, you let it cool. It's butterscotch pudding. A little special butterscotch pudding? Yes, of course. In fact, I recently learned that my father-in-law absolutely adores butterscotch pudding, which is great because my husband always asks for chocolate and I never get to make butterscotch. Well, now I have a perfect excuse. But the thing that even takes this one step beyond is not only how we make it, but the fact that what you do when you're ready to eat it, and eating it hot, not quite this hot, you let it cool a little bit. Eating it hot is and also a wonderful treat, or of course you can let it cool in the refrigerator, serve it cold. But the thing that makes it extra special is taking a little bit of heavy cream and pouring it over the top. So you just want to put a nice layer of heavy cream on the top so you can completely cover the top of the pudding. And then you take your spoon and you indulge. With this, even I can get through winter. Well, we first moved into Blooming Acres in 1991 when it was just Tommy, me, and a bunch of dogs. Since then, the children arrived, have grown, and all of a sudden the house seems a little small. Now, granted, the living room and the kitchen are wide open rooms, feeling spacious, but 3 little bedrooms at the other end of the house make things feel a little crowded. We need room. So one of the first things that you have to do is get yourself an architect. And we have here Richard J. Finch, who's going to help us turn this boring little ranch into something magical like a castle or a Victorian or something spectacular, all on a low budget, right?
We hope so.
We hope so?
We hope to do exactly what you want to have it look like.
Well, one of the things that's kind of a restriction is we have a septic system. And if we add bedrooms, we have to upgrade the septic system, so we need to avoid that.
Okay, so if we turn one of the bedrooms downstairs into a laundry room and bring the laundry room from downstairs.
And then we can put the staircase there?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
And that's
Yeah.
the way we'll go up?
That's the way we'll get up to the second floor.
Okay, I have to have a greenhouse.
That's not a problem. We can put a greenhouse up there for you. We can do just about whatever you want.
And something I've always, since I was a little girl and always had long hair, I always wanted to have Rapunzel's tower. Can we do that?
An octagon tower?
An octagon tower.
Yes.
Can we do that?
Sure, we can put that on the corner.
All right, so I have these ideas.
Okay.
And what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
I kind of interpret your ideas and put them down on paper so that you can look at them.
And what about all the, I don't know anything about building. I have good ideas, but I don't know anything about the structural stuff. Will you make sure it's stands?
Yeah, one of the things that architects do is that we do the structural work of the house. We design the rafters, we design the spans, the beams, the columns, so that the house doesn't fall down. Here we have a special scenario where we're putting a second floor on, which means we're going to have to put in new floor joists for the second floor. The ceiling rafters will not support a second floor load. That's another thing we have to take into account is floor loading.
Well, downstairs in the basement, there's these two huge steel beams that run the length of the house. They can sort of divide it longwise into sections. Does that have some impact all the way on the third floor?
Absolutely. As long as those bearing walls continue up through the first floor, we can use those to carry that second floor load or part of it.
So part of it. Okay. Now, I want the tower to kind of stick out a little bit. There's a word for that.
Overhang?
Overhang, another word, a C word.
Cantilever.
Cantilever.
Oh,
it's a great
okay,
word.
yeah.
Okay, how do you do that?
That's done by just extending the floor joist out from the actual building envelope.
So the very first step is we come up with a bunch of ideas.
Right.
Okay, right? We did that.
That's
I'm
good.
good
Yeah, we did
at that
that.
part.
We did that, yes.
All right, and then what happens after that? What's the next step?
Well, the next step, after you come up with the ideas and we come up with a plan that you like, then we get into what's called construction documents, and those are the documents that the contractor will use to build the addition.
Well, the front of the house is pretty ugly, so when we're turning it into some sort of magical castle, maybe we could work on that. Is this your idea of what the front's going to look like?
Yes, it is. We took your ideas and put your little cantilevered octagon in the corner.
That's my Rapunzel's tower?
That's your Rapunzel's tower.
Okay.
And your greenhouse is to the left.
Over here, this is my greenhouse?
Yes. And there's a little porch that you wanted up there also.
Yeah, so we can, have a glass of wine and go out and look at the stars or the sunrise in the morning since this faces east.
And we put a little octagon window
up here
at the top just to let some more light into the room.
And it's going to have a cathedral ceiling, you said, in the bedroom.
Yes, all cathedral ceiling.
So I can have a big chandelier hanging over the bed?
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. Okay, now,
do that.
this is what the back of the house is going to look like.
That's the back of the house. And again, what we've done is taken this little octagon window and put it down here on the back side.
Now, this part's all here already, right?
Yes, that's the existing
and
house.
is so all of this high part above this roof line is going to be new.
Right, yep. And this is an octagon window in your stairway that's coming up to the second floor. And it's, we're going to have to extend your chimney up, like I explained to you before. But everything is going to look nice.
Okay, can we look at the floor plan, what the bedroom's going to look like?
Sure.
Okay. Tell me, what is all this? All these lines and squares and speckled-looking things.
This is the stairway coming up from the first floor.
So my daughter's room is going to disappear.
Your daughter's room is going to disappear. You're going to come into the bedroom. You have a bathroom on your left, and then 2 walk-in closets.
This is my closet, the big one, right?
Yes, the big one is yours.
Okay.
And the smaller one is for your husband. The greenhouse is next to that, and your outside porch is...
And this?
And that is your octagon.
My bedroom, where I can put the
bedroom.
bed and have all those beautiful windows looking out.
Absolutely, yeah. That would be so dramatic.
And romantic. I want romance.
Yeah.
I want romance. Okay. Now this is where we're going to knock out the ceiling to the living room, and we'll be able to have access to the beautiful second floor deck.
Right. We're going to create a railing across here so that you can look down into this space that we're in now, and we're going to add 3 skylights.
So the whole house, from the view from the road to the romantic second floor to even the existing living room, is going to have a whole new look.
It's going to be entirely different.
And fabulous.
And fabulous.
Okay, now if somebody else needs an architect, how does one go about getting one?
Well, you can look in the yellow pages. AIA New Jersey is the place where you want to start, depending on where you live in the state. And they will give you information as to what architects are available in your locale.
Now, I see there's like a raised seal on this. What does that mean?
This is very important. This is like gold.
It's gold? It looks just kind of bumpy to me.
This is an embossed seal that all architects have that are registered in the state of New Jersey, and we're required to have that. And we also have to seal the drawings when they're given to the building department for permit issues.
So we're ready to take this
These are all ready, set to go.
to get our permits?
To get your permits.
And the contractor does that part?
Yes, he does.
And then we give this to the contractor?
Yep,
And we move from there and we start ripping and tearing?
absolutely.
Can't wait.
As soon as he gets his permits, then you can start ripping and tearing away.
Well, it's going to be an interesting spring here at Blooming Acres. The next time you see us, we're going to be down to the studs in some parts of this house. So thanks for joining us. Wish us luck.
Thank you and good luck.
Oh, you caught me. Hey, I was just taking a look at my brand new hot off the press revised edition of New Jersey Gardener's Guide. This is the first copy I've seen, but it's going to be in your local bookstores very soon. Now, it has 183 plants, which is a few more than the original version, and it's in full color. I even took the cover picture myself. Now, it will be available for all of you gardeners to do some planning for the spring garden, but let's not forget that there's a whole bunch of holidays out there that this might just make the perfect present. And I have here with me the chapter on roses. Now, wouldn't this make the perfect gift? We'll just put that in there and leave it on somebody's pillow. So I hope you enjoy it and look for it in all your local bookstores. Now, you want to beat that up. Sorry. Of heavy cream and pouring it over the top to get like a nice layer